I don't know who's in the middle class. Are you in the middle class? I'm doing this show for you. And only you. Nobody else is allowed to listen. I notice reporters, even on Fox, Ed Henry, talking about tax cuts for the middle class. There are no tax cuts. Since when does a tax rate that's been in existence for 12 years qualify as a tax cut? There are no tax cuts. This is the current tax rate in these different categories, depending on income. Nobody's getting a tax cut. Obama running around talking about, he's for middle-class tax cuts. The best the so-called middle class gets is the status quo. What the tax rate is today would be next year. So there's no tax cut. Don't allow these Washington, mealy mouths and political hacks and phony journalists to get in your head. And then Obama turns around and he says, look, tweet your member of Congress and tell your member of Congress, Republicans, of course, no tax increases for the middle class. Now, the Republicans said, let's keep all the tax rates where they are. And Obama says no. So if the tax rates lapse, it's the President of the United States that has caused them to lapse. That's why he's spending so much time, so much effort, telling you that he opposes tax cuts for the rich and supports tax cuts for the middle class. There are no tax cuts. None. This is a gratuitous attack on people who are productive, super productive, and to what end? And to what end? Now, look at Britain, the Telegraph. In the 2009 tax year, they write, more than 16,000 people declared an annual income of more than £1 million. This number fell to just 6,000 after Gordon Brown, then Prime Minister, introduced the top 50% tax rate of income tax shortly before the last general election. So 2/3 of millionaires left Britain to avoid the 50% tax rate. Because real millionaires and billionaires, they don't have to sit put for this. They don't have to stand for it. They leave. And they take their businesses with them, and they take their wealth with them. What we really should be doing is unleashing our economy. What we really should be doing is outcompeting all these other countries with federal policies, quite frankly. And our federal policies should slash tax rates, slash them across the board. None of this class warfare crap. Should slash the capital gains tax, should slash the corporate income tax, which is the highest in the industrialized world, and watch all the money flow into the United States. Rather than outsourcing jobs, which is what Obama's doing. We'd be insourcing jobs, insourcing wealth from all over the world. We would be the exception to what's going on in the rest of the world. We'd have massive economic growth and expansion and jobs, good-paying jobs. It would also be a way to actually, truthfully start to pay down the debt. We know it works. Capitalism works. Limited government. That's what we want. But when you have a Marxist in the White House, well, he can't oblige it, can he? No, he can't. These millionaires from Britain, we should want them to come here. These millionaires from France, we should want them to come here. Rather than trashing them, we should say, millionaires and billionaires, big businessmen, small and medium businessmen, come to America. Create here, invent here, produce here, invest here. Can you imagine? Why can't Republicans talk this way? Why do they all have lockjaw? Why do they all sound like they're sitting on I won't say it. What's the problem? Problem is they don't believe in anything I'm telling you. That's the problem. Listen to this, ZeroHedge.com. This is a great website. ZeroHedge.com. Tyler Durden is a great writer over there. I want you to listen to this. He says, let me get to the part of it here. Exactly 2 years ago, some of the more politically biased progressive media outlets, who are quite adept at creating and taking down their own strawman arguments, if not quite as adept at using an abacus, let alone a calculator, took advance in an article that we wrote. In it, we merely explained what has become the painful reality in America. For increasingly more, it is now more lucrative in the form of actual disposable income to sit, do nothing, and collect various welfare entitlements than to work. Are we even allowed to talk about this in America? No. No cheats, no losers. Everybody's needy. He says, let's see here, a chart, which I don't need to show you, obviously, on the air, from Gary Alexander, Secretary of Public Works, Commonwealth of Virginia. And what that chart shows, the single mom, this is the kicker, the single mom is better off earning gross income of $29,000 a year with $57,327 in net income and benefits than to earn gross income of $69,000 a year with net income and benefits of $57,045. Let me explain this again. So a single mom who has gross earnings in a year of $29,000 winds up with $57,327 in net income and benefits because of the government welfare state. And the single mom who earns $69,000 a year with net income and benefits, by the time you pay taxes and so forth, her net income and benefits, $57,045 a year. The point is, under our welfare state, you net more by earning $29,000 a year than by earning $69,000 a year. Now, how long can a society like this survive? And, of course, we can't cut anything. There's nothing in the federal government to cut. Every program, every department and agency, every bureaucrat, every aspect of the federal government is so precious. We cannot cut it. As a matter of fact, Obama said today, let's look at cuts next year. Let's get our tax increases this year. Well, wouldn't that be a fool's deal? Boehner's up to the task, though. We're going off a spending cliff. We're going off a welfare state cliff. We're going off a big government cliff. Can't we even explain it that way? This fiscal cliff that they talk about is nothing but a toast-up. That's all it is. As bad as you think it is. And the fact is, I don't like all the amount that's taken out of defense, but Boehner cut that deal. Obama still intends to take that money out of defense regardless. The fact is, if we raise taxes, if we don't make cuts, we are in a more disastrous and perilous situation than we were before. That's why I said the other day, and I will repeat today, we need to go off this so-called fiscal cliff in order to cut spending and in order to prevent Obama from playing class warfare. We have to do it because we're not dealing with a reasonable or rational president. We're dealing with a Marxist. We're dealing with an ideologue. And he's fully prepared to win the game of chicken. We have to be fully prepared to win the game of chicken. Not for the Republican Party, for the future of the nation. The statist who promotes this false utopian paradise notion in order to suck people into it, they're never done. That's why you never have an actual blueprint or constitution of what it is that they want to set up at the end of the process, because there is no end of the process. There's no amount of liberty that they steal from you that will satisfy them. There's no amount of private property that they steal from you that will satisfy them. It's doomed to failure, which means any society that embraces this is doomed to failure. The people are. There's an important piece here in the Washington Examiner by Byron York. And it's worth taking some time with this. During the campaign, he writes, it was commonplace to note Obama didn't have much of a second-term agenda. Beyond his desire to raise taxes on higher earners, most of the president's platform amounted to a promise to not go back. That is, to protect the so-called accomplishments of his first term. But Obama's liberal supporters do have a second-term agenda, and it's a far-reaching one. That agenda, laid out in a new article in the liberal magazine The American Prospect, is enough to set off alarm bells among conservatives in Washington and around the country. Not just conservatives, folks. All of you. Everybody. In the piece, author Michael Kanzai summarizes the work of some influential thinkers on the left who are asking the question, now that Obama has been reelected and Obamacare is safe from Republican appeal, what's next for the welfare state? They divide the answer into three parts. The first is further expansion of the social safety net. That is the welfare state, folks. The second is an array of programs to act as a springboard for the poor. And the third is an escalator to address income inequality by giving progressively larger government grants to lower-income Americans. This is totalitarianism. They can call it anything else they want. York goes on the safety net, the liberal plan begins with the premise that Obamacare isn't enough. As I told you, that would be the position no matter what they passed. Quote, the program will still leave millions without health insurance, Kanzai writes, and it may fail due to its complicated design to contain costs. So Obamacare is not enough. We need more. Now, many Americans might say, now they tell us. But the fact is, the passage of Obamacare did not mean the president's liberal supporters would give up on their dream of a federal single-payer health care system. Senator Tom Harkin, leftist commie, Democrat, Iowa, called Obamacare a starter home. And for liberals, it's just a first step toward their goal. The other goal for the safety net is to radically remake the retirement system. I've talked about this. Here it is. Social Security would remain in place, but progressives are they're not progressives, they're commies. Our frustrated 1K plans, any of you have one of those? You have an IRA, 403B, whatever? Are used mostly by higher income workers. So see, everybody's rich now. All of you folks who think because you have a private pension plan, well, I'm in the middle class. No. You're a higher income worker now. So they want the government, in Kanzai's words, to, quote, provide a universal IRA with an automatic enrollment to all Americans, as well as shifting 401ks over to public-private defined benefit plans. I thought we called this Social Security. In other words, they want to steal your private pension plan. And then they want to give pension plans to people who supposedly can't afford them. Also with your money. Now, such a scheme would not only involve massive new federal spending, but would also create a vast pool of previously private money under the government's control. Hey, tax the rich, yes. Call your congressman. Tweet your congressman. Screw the rich. Wait a minute. I earn $60,000 a year and I have a private pension plan. That's right. You're a higher income worker. You have a Cadillac pension plan like your Cadillac health plan. Now, should we tweet Congress and tell them to screw you too? The third goal, the so-called escalator, not, well, you know what I mean, is perhaps the most radical. To address continuing income inequality. Let's stop right there. There's always income inequality. There's always going to be income inequality. You ever see these worker ants go up and down in a line, Mr. Producer? Do they all carry the same exact amount of food? So there's inequality among worker ants. There's inequality among the poor prisoners in gulags in North Korea. Some are able to collect 3 worms and eat them. Some don't get any worms. You get the point? The third goal, the escalator, is perhaps the most radical. To address continuing income inequality, liberal thinkers propose sweeping redistribution plans. One is to increase the earned income tax credit so that it becomes a government wage subsidy for everyone who makes up to $80,000 a year. Ladies and gentlemen, when I've called Obama Marxist and his supporter Marxist, I've taken no end of hell. Well, what do you call this? What do you call it? Another approach, writes Kanzai, would create an unconditional basic income that rises with the GDP growth. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, the government has killed off the civil society and the private sector. These aren't liberal thinkers. They're not thinkers at all. They're power-hungry drones. These are the people who are influential in the Democrat Party today. These are the people to whom Barack Obama listens. This is what we're up against. Do the Republicans comprehend this? Does Boehner comprehend it? Does anybody comprehend this on Capitol Hill? This is so dangerous, so diabolical. And Obama's running around talking about how he represents the middle class. Pay attention, please. They want to attack the mortgage interest deduction. Well, that's only for the rich. For now, it's only for the so-called rich. That won't be enough. They want to attack your pension plan. Who's going to pay for all this? You're going to pay for all this. Better pay attention.